Sample food from Jamaica, clothes from Ireland, and learn a dance from the Philippines as we join the kids from Our Lady Star of the Sea in Atlantic City, New Jersey on school days. Then we'll talk with Bernie Shire, Communications Director of the Pennsylvania Catholic Conference, about the revised clergy confidentiality legislation in Pennsylvania. All this and more next on Catholic Magazine. With your window on your world, this is Catholic Magazine. Hello again, everyone. I'm Paul Pirillo.
And I'm Pat Shelton. Thank you for joining us again this week. Later on tonight's program, we'll meet two women who are using art therapy to overcome their feelings of anger and denial in their bouts with cancer.
Also, we'll travel to Belize, the smallest and poorest country in Central America, where we find volunteers there helping some of the residents with just life's basic needs.
But first, we'll travel to Our Lady Star of the Sea in Atlantic City, New Jersey, where students are exploring ways of discovering their cultural backgrounds in our next segment of School Days.
Hi kids, my name is Shalani and I'm from Our Lady Star of the Sea, and we're having Ethnic Day, and we have the chicken from Africa, potato salad that's from Africa, and cornbread that's from Jamaica, and greens that's from Jamaica, and we have red beans and rice that's from Jamaica, and we have good old American pie, and we have sweet potato pie just from Jamaica.
Hi kids, I'm Roberto Solano. My age is 7 years old. I come from Mexico. I'm wearing the clothes of Mexico. Here's the kids of an International Day.
Hi kids, my name is James Anderson. I'm 7 years old. I represent the Ghana flag.
Hi, my name is Rosemary Torres. I'm from Greece. I'm 8 years old. I'm representing the clothes from Greece.
Hi kids, my name is Leslie Jesperson. I'm from Denmark. Denmark is the oldest kingdom.
Hi everybody, my name is Mary Magara. I am from Pakistan. I am 8 years old.
Hi kids, my name is Asham. I am from Africa. I am 8 years old.
Hi kids, I'm from Ireland. My name is Aaron. My name means Ireland.
Hi kids, I am Andrew Rafa and I am 7 years old. I'll be 8 in March 23. I'm from Italy and these are the colors from the Italy flag.
Hi kids, my name is David Lamb. I'm from China. There's a lot of people in China.
Hi kids, my name is John Ledford. I'm 7 years old, and what I'm wearing is what the men wear, and boys also, to parties and weddings in the Philippines.
Hi kids, my name is Tiffany Tran. I'm from Vietnam. I go to Vietnamese churches. I am 7 years old.
Hi kids, my name is Sakina Palmer. I was born in Atlantic City. There are casinos, beaches, and boardwalks.
Hi kids, this is a piñata. You had to break it in anywhere, but the candy comes down.
Hi kids, this could take all day, so we're gonna break the piñata and go on. But see you later.
Hi kids, I'm from the Philippines and I'm performing our folk dance in our country. It calls Pandango sa Ilaw, with candle dance.
Imagine, if you will, what runs through a person's mind when they're diagnosed as having cancer. For many, it's a terrifying experience. But in northeastern Pennsylvania, some patients are tapping into their own creative energy to cope with the disease.
Sharon Denault and Judy Harding share much in common. Both women lived through the physical and emotional pains of breast cancer and survived. More importantly, they share a common love for life and the courage and determination it takes to overcome an ordeal as devastating as cancer.
It was a modified radical right mastectomy, and I was told that I had an aggressive cancer, and I told them I was an aggressive person and we would treat it aggressively. And I've had some people and some physicians who are friends put limits on my life. And I won't let anybody do that to me anymore, because I don't think anybody knows.
You know, I feel very lucky. Like, I'm in a controlled remission. And truthfully, in the beginning, my prognosis wasn't very good. You know, I had one doctor that gave me a really horrible prognosis, so I got rid of him. I wasn't opting for that one. That wasn't the prognosis I wanted to hear. And I'm doing okay, you know, and I feel that there's a reason for that.
Sharon and Judy are among several local cancer patients whose artwork was recently on display at Mercy Hospital in Wilkes-Barre. Entitled Art That Heals, Confronting Cancer Through Creativity, the traveling art exhibit is sponsored by the Northeast Regional Cancer Institute. Working in conjunction with 6-member hospitals throughout northeastern Pennsylvania, the Institute is promoting creative expression as a means of generating new vitality and spirit for people who are battling cancer.
It's not going to heal somebody. It's going to give you a better mindset. People are afraid of death, and death is part of the cycle of life. And I think when that's understood, and you can look at each day as like a gift, you know, and life is a gift. It's a gift from God, that you can readjust things, and it makes everything like a lot easier.
It just takes me away. In the book, Charting the Journey, Fitzhugh Mullen says being a cancer survivor is like crossing a river to uncharted territory with no maps and no guidelines. And I think I've crossed the river, and with my artwork, I'm knocking down the brush and seeing things much more clearly and appreciating nature so much more.
When Sharon first learned that she had cancer, she experienced a variety of emotions, including fear, anger, and denial, all of which were later reflected in her artwork.
Some of the stuff is pretty strong. I have that one piece in the show with the figure being impaled on a spike, and that signified a lot of the hurt, and I've had people that can relate to that. So that's being worked into a sculpture piece now. But now I'm into a playful mode, and I do a lot of little playful bronze pieces and stuff, because I've learned how to accept things and play. And life doesn't have to be all going on with a big sad face and crying and wailing. I think it has to be a lot of playfulness and My work's taken a lot of transitions over the years, and I'm hoping that it can get into something now where I can give messages people, they don't have to be blatant messages, but the people that it's meant to say something to, it will.
Judy's personal battle with cancer not only opened her eyes to the healing power of art, but to the beauty of the world around her.
I appreciate everything more. I have a wonderful family, and they've been very, very supportive. I've made new friends. I have met a lot of other cancer survivors that have helped me, and in turn, I hope I'm helping them.
Sharon and Judy hope their art will inspire other cancer patients to tap into their own creative energy as a way of coping with their disease. They also have a message to share, that in many cases, cancer can be beaten.
Our society is not a society that encourages people to talk about their pain, you know, and it's a society that's geared toward youth and staying young. So death and illness and pain is deviant. It's not an accepted norm. You don't see commercials on TV saying, you know, call hospice if you're dying, you know, that's not what we're geared for. So you have to reverse all that, and you have to accept it. And again, I think that's where art therapy can come in, because it taps into that side of the brain. It taps into that communication side and gets you in touch with yourself and makes you aware of what's inside of you so that you can deal with that.
Our mind and spirit are just as important as medicine in the fight against cancer. And in some cases, it can make all the difference.
We'll be right back with an interview that I did recently with Bernie Shire of the Pennsylvania Catholic Conference. Don't touch that remote control.
That's my dad. And that's Mom. Dad's got an idea. A way to get rid of all the grody garbage that's polluting the world. He's invented a big rocket ship to shoot all the garbage into outer space. Mom's not sure, but Dad says his invention will save the world.
There's an easier way to save the world. Recycle. For your free recycling action guide, write Recycle. Environmental Defense Fund, 257 Park Avenue South, New York, New York.
So, Casanova, do you know what time it is?
Sometimes the best friend is an old friend.
Hi, Mrs. Christo. These are for you.
Beautiful.
Make an old friend.
They gave all they had and left none for themselves. But now, through the Retirement Fund for Religious, you can give to those who showed us how.
Welcome back to Catholic Magazine. I'm Paul Perillo. Recently in Harrisburg, legislation was introduced that would tighten up the state's child abuse law and protect children from increasing sexual abuse and violence. And while there was plenty of merit in the measure, it did erode the sacredness of conversations between a church or synagogue member and his or her priest, minister, or rabbi. But thanks to the efforts of a state representative, a provision has been attached to the measure, preserving the confidentiality of a conversation between a person and his or her clergyman. The provision is supported by the Pennsylvania Catholic Conference and the Pennsylvania Council of Churches, and it's part of the Child Abuse Reporting Law. Joining us to discuss this law is Bernie Shire, Communications Director for the Pennsylvania Catholic Conference. Again, Bernie, welcome to our program.
Thanks, Paul.
The law was I guess, sought to strengthen the protection of children against sexual or other abuse. But I guess what they didn't realize was the whole issue of confidentiality between a priest and a member of the church, or a rabbi and a member of the synagogue, correct?
Yes, that's exactly right. There's been, as you know, increasing problems in the past few years with abuse of children. And the legislature decided to, in a comprehensive way, to tighten up and strengthen the law. And it was certainly a good goal and something we supported, but along the way they got into some things that created some problems.
As it stands right now, then, if a person goes into a confessional or if a person confides to a priest about some circumstance of child abuse, is that priest required to report that incident of child abuse to the authorities?
No, that's not required right now, but in early stages when the legislation was first being written, the protection of confession was put aside, and in early stages of that legislation, if someone told a priest about an incident of sexual abuse in confession, the priest would be bound to report that. One of the things that was done as part of this legislation, and which we don't have a problem with, is that clergy were made mandated reporters, that with some other professionals, when they find out about child abuse, they're generally required to report it. We didn't have a problem with that, but we had a problem with some of the things that came after.
Now, as the measure stands currently, if a person goes into the confessional and confides or confesses to the priest what had happened or what had occurred, must they turn and say to the priest, please, I don't want nobody to know about this, and then the priest is bound to honor that confidentiality? Or if the person just goes in, confesses, or that he or she was the perpetrator or the victim of child abuse, does the priest then have to report the crime?
In confession now, the priest does not have to report it. The problem that came up also was that even if someone went to see their clergyman, and it's not just Catholic clergy, it could be any clergyman or clergywoman, and just told them in confidence about an incident of child abuse, if they didn't tell the clergyman that they didn't want it reported, the priest or the minister or rabbi could report it and should report it. But if they said to the clergyman, I don't want you to tell anyone about this, the way the law was being written, he would have to tell the person, I'm sorry, I have to do that, I have to report it. And everyone was afraid the effect would be that people would stop talking to their clergy, stop confiding in them. And so an amendment was inserted in the legislation by Representative Teresa Brown out in the Erie Diocese that would put an exemption in there, so that if the person did not want this reported, the clergyman would not be bound to do it. He could talk to the person and counsel them and try to get the family into therapy and to get help there. The fear was that if the clergyman was required to report this, people would stop. Clergy are one of the groups that people can come to and talk to and confide. They would stop doing this, and the abuse might very well continue and be worse. So it would actually have the opposite effect of what they were trying to do.
It almost seems, Bernie, that it was an unintentional chipping away of the state getting involved in matters of the church. And I don't believe that the original intention of the bill was to do that, but it seems it was almost unintentional for something like that to occur.
Well, there's some difference of opinion as to whether it was intentional or not. There's such pressure on the state and such an effort to try to control this increasing problem of abuse of children, that the feeling was that that clergy really shouldn't be exempt, that they are just as capable of anybody else, and when they get information like this, the greater good, the argument went, the greater good would be to report this rather than hold it back. And that was seen as more important than the confidentiality of communications between a clergyman and a parishioner or a congregant.
When legislation like this is proposed in Harrisburg, does the PCC have the opportunity to testify in front of public hearings to voice their concerns about the legislation?
Yes, depending on individual legislation, the Catholic Conference, through the bishops and the boards that are appointed by the bishops from each diocese, including the Archdiocese of Philadelphia, people review the legislation and take a look at it and decide whether it's good, bad, or indifferent. And in cases where there's a real strong concern, either positively or negatively, PCC will testify on legislative matters, on issues of legislation. That's right.
My thanks to Bernie Shire, the Communications Director for the Pennsylvania Catholic Conference, for being with us on our program. Up next, we travel to a place where high-tech medical equipment is practically non-existent. So the volunteers must use alternatives in treating the sick and elderly in need. Our next segment, Volunteers of Hope.
From the air, it's a land of lush greenery and majestic mountains. Beautiful coastlines and unspoiled beaches. It's Belize, the smallest country in Central America, and also the poorest. There's a simplicity of life here that appears somewhat backwards to modernize, yet the people of Belize have a spiritual richness that transcends their economic poverty. Both religious and lay volunteers serve the people of Belize in many ways. As president of St. John's College in Belize City, Father Leo Weber provides both educational and spiritual guidance in the Jesuit tradition. Mary Kay Barron, a registered nurse and Jesuit International volunteer, has only recently arrived in Belize. And she's learned that one of the best ways she can serve God is by helping the people of this country with some of life's most basic needs.
Good morning, Miss Goff. How are you?
Well, not so good.
How are you feeling?
Well, not bad.
Good. Listen, Hammond is 100% better.
Yeah, sure.
My God, I was down to see him. I couldn't believe it. The main focus of my work is visiting the elderly poor in their homes and meeting their basic medical needs. That usually gets turned into meeting their basic needs. A lot of times it means giving them food, looking at alternative places for shelter because their homes aren't livable. Morning, Leopold. Did you take the pills I gave you?
Yes, honey, they work. They work more, too much.
I see a lot of things, but I don't know what I'm seeing. We don't have the diagnostic tools to say whether or not a patient has cancer or whatever. I worked in a great hospital in Chicago, but you can lose the patient in all the tests and the procedures and the medicines and the transporting and the x-rays that we do. But you get back to the basic here because all you have are some medicines to give them and some care to give them and what you can do. You learn to see the people and not the tests, and I like that. Here in Belize, there's 16 JIVs in the country. 8 of us are new volunteers that started this year and have a 2-year commitment, and 8 returning JIVs that only had a 1-year commitment but extended. I was afraid to come and be away from home and just the fear of being so far away, but I don't know, now that I'm here, I love it. I mean, it's rough, but it's not even rough. It's, Belize, like, you look at Belize. I mean, Belize is not good. You know, it's an ugly city, you know, I mean, overall. It's not pretty, but it's being here that's good. It's being with the people here that are really good. Hi, Vanjie. How are ya? Good, you got some company, huh? Yeah. I'd like to lead a way of life that's simple and that's conscious of what's going on in our world. And I think I'm lucky because I'm down here because it's easy to learn about that and to become in tune to what you're feeling. And it's easier to do it when you're away from family and friends and you can be down here and just get back to the basics. It's looking a little bit better. What you're doing is working. I'm gonna come by, I think, every week and check on it, all right?
The Belizeans are a great set of people. The environment in which they live has changed and become far more complex. It's much harder to grow up now than it was when I first came in 1950. But the people are a Christian people. They are a people who have a philosophy of life that could teach us in the U.S. a tremendous amount. They take life as it comes and are without what we consider to be essentials and live happily and contentedly at that level. So you see, there are all kinds of ways of using the gifts that you have for the good of others, and that's what real wealth is. And you know, the most unhappy people in this world are the wealthy people who are selfish. And the happiest people in this world are the generous people, whether they have much to give or a little to give, but the ones who are aware of people around them and who spend their energy helping others. That's what our Christian life is all about.
We're rooted in something more basic, more simple, and that's just that God is love and that all we have to do is love each other. I think I find that here. I find it exciting to be around the peers, the JIV peers that are here. They energize me. I find that getting back to the basics is essential, as my patients have nothing, but they have a deep faith in their God.
Let's pray that He will give to each one of us a generous heart so that we can look around us, see the needs of others, and fulfill those needs with the gifts that we have received from Him. And let's pray that each one of us can come to understand the richness of the life that we have, come to appreciate the gifts that are ours, and come to desire to use those gifts for the service of others. We pray to the Lord.
Another information-filled program, Pat, especially on the interview with Bernie Shire that I did, and the efforts that are underway in Harrisburg to protect the confidentiality between a priest and a parishioner, or a rabbi and a member of a synagogue.
Good interview, Paul. Good information. As well as the segment on cancer. I mean, we don't know, it may be you or me who have that experience with cancer in the future, and all that information may come in handy someday. Well, we're running out of time rapidly. Until next time, we invite you to join us on the next edition of Catholic Magazine. I'm Pat Shelton.
And I'm Paul Perello.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody. Set materials for Catholic Magazine provided by Tague Lumber Incorporated, serving the Delaware Valley for over 75 years, and by John Wanamaker, fine stores in the Delaware Valley. We welcome your comments, suggestions, and donations, and encourage you to write us at Catholic Magazine, St. Charles Seminary, 1000 East Wynwood Road, Overbrook, Pennsylvania, 19096, or call us during regular business hours at 668-9842.